What we have here is a guy who says that you cannot be judged for your beliefs.
That doesn't stop the atheist from being guilty or leaning to or even delving into idolatry.
Aw, man, and I was just starting to like him, too. Let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. Meet the Idol Smasher, who, unfortunately, doesn't quite seem to understand how atheism, if you're being intellectually honest, is supposed to work.
Define idolatry. What is idolatry? Idolatry is the worship of any created thing.
So right off the bat, we're delving right into the area of, huh? Because what is atheism created, besides the occasional book or two? And most of us respect those, not worship.
In essence, idolatry is the worship of the ego. That's all it is.
Son, your ego is writing checks your body can't cash.
Now, hold on a second here, because ego has multiple definitions. There's the I, or self, of any person, a person as thinking, feeling, and willing, and distinguishing itself from the selves of others and from objects of its thought. But then there's also egotism, conceit, self-importance, self-esteem, or self-image. So what exactly do we mean when we're saying that it's the worship of the ego? And didn't you just say that it's a created thing? Well, who created the ego? It's kind of built into us, isn't it?
An idol is there to make your ego feel better about itself, or safe with it, make it safer. Make you feel safe.
Well, isn't that special?
So it isn't the worship of the ego. It's the worship of something that makes the ego feel better about itself or safer. I'm looking for a little consistency here.
Whether it's a mountain or a tree or a pole or a statue, or for that matter, the one in your mind. In the end, idolatry is the worship of ego.
Yeah, I'm gonna give up looking for consistency. I kinda know what he means. It's probably just a terminology problem, but still.
But when you look at certain popular atheists on here...
Oh, tell me you mean me, right? I want to be popular. I'm popular, right? Right?
It's all about the ego. That comes first and foremost. Do you believe, would you say that all psychic phenomena is illusory? That it's all based on hallucination?
Well, I guess he didn't mean me, because I wouldn't say that. I would say that the people who are making claims of psychic phenomena have failed the burden of proof, that they have not provided sufficient evidence for a rational, skeptical person to say, yeah, you've got a point there. That is distinct from someone saying, no, you're wrong, it doesn't exist. What's being said there is, I will not say it exists until you can prove it to me. I've noticed that a lot of the people who believe in the religious, the supernatural, or the paranormal can't understand or refuse to accept this distinction, but it is an important one. It means that somebody has an open mind, that they can be convinced with sufficient evidence, but that they will not believe on faith, on somebody's say-so. This is known as apeistivism. An apeistivist is someone who doesn't use faith as a method for knowing things.
I've never experienced it, therefore it doesn't happen. Therefore it doesn't exist. I don't understand it, therefore they're wrong.
And I don't know anybody who's intellectually honest who says that. What they should say is, you've made a claim. Now give me a reason to believe it. Tell me why you believe it. But if it's not something that I can check, then I have no reason to believe it. I'm not even saying that you're wrong. I'm saying that if you're right, you're doing a very bad job of showing that to me. Hell, let's take God or the supernatural completely out of the equation. It's kind of like that guy who claims to have a girlfriend, but when you ask to meet her or what her name is, he says, oh, she lives in Canada, you wouldn't know her. Now come on, are you buying that shit? It sounds awfully suspicious, doesn't it? So imagine how much worse it must be when people start making claims about the supernatural, about the paranormal. Now, if he were to trot out that girlfriend and say, "See, she's visiting from Canada," I might change my mind. So, produce the same kind of evidence for your supernatural stuff, and hey. Now come on, are you really telling me that that level of skepticism, that demand for evidence is unreasonable? Really?
That is no different than somebody putting all their faith into one thing, one created thing, anything.
Ah, yes, the "you do it too, so shut up and stop being a hypocrite" argument. Ah, the classics. I'm pretty sure it's the love of this shut up tactic, the hope that it will work, that prompts so many, as I said before, to not understand or refuse to accept the concept of the burden of proof. You might want to stop trying that, because it's not going to work. Skepticism and faith are not the same thing. They are, in fact, polar opposites.
You can worship the state. You can worship people. You can worship anything.
The problem here is that there are different definitions of worship, and this guy is clearly equating them. As I'm sure should be obvious, I'm a bit of a sci-fi geek, and if I happen to worship a sci-fi series, or perhaps its creator, what I'm doing is holding them in high regard. I'm saying that's really nifty. Now let's compare that to worshiping our most popular god on this planet. Allegedly, he created the universe and thus somehow is owed this worship, that it's a requirement, and if this worship is not given, there is a punishment. So let's recap. There's, "Ooh, that's really nifty," and then there's "Bow before me, puny mortal." And this fellow is trying to say that they're the same thing.
You can put your worship, and in the end, all that's doing is giving your ego something.
But I don't get that from atheism. I know almost no atheists who do. Oh, don't get me wrong, I derive a certain amount of comfort from the knowledge that the existence of the Abrahamic God is really unlikely given the complete dearth of evidence for that existence. I mean, that guy's a bit of a prick, but that doesn't mean that I get comfort from being an atheist, from atheism itself, because I can think of some gods who would be really nifty to have around. I'm an atheist not because it feeds my ego. It's not an idol, and I don't worship it. I'm an atheist because I've never found or been given sufficient reason to be anything else.
Scientism. Science can be made into an idolatrous thing. That's why what a lot of people are calling scientism. I think it's a great, because I see the difference between scientism and science. Science is a process, an action. Scientism is an idea.
Well, okay, let's suppose for a moment that you're correct, that people have turned science into an idol, into something that they worship, something that gives their ego that kind of reassurance or comfort. So, as you say, science is a process. It's a method of gathering data and using logical analysis to determine the truth of something, the validity of a claim. And you're saying that somehow being reassured by that, having that feed your ego, is bad? Explain. And then you try to equate that to the comfort derived from believing in something thoroughly illogical, purely on faith. Do you really not see the problem here? And yes, for the observant, my kitty keeps trying to make cameos. She loves being on camera.
So beware the idols of atheism.
Well, okay, maybe this isn't the worst advice in the world. After all, yes, there are prominent atheists out there. Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, that crowd. And they've certainly said things that are worthy of respect. Certainly. They've said some very thought-provoking things. However, they can be wrong. Anybody can be wrong. So to worship them, probably not the best idea. To treat them as idols, not a good thing. Certainly not.
There are honest atheists out there who get a lot of people throwing their idols in their face, and we need to stop that.
Uh-oh. I'm in serious danger of starting to like this guy again. We can't have that, can we?
Our new friend.
Just a suggestion for the conversations that are going on.
Well, as I say, it's not the worst advice in the world, but I do still disagree with what you say an atheist idol would be, or the negative effect it would have if one did exist. But, whatevs. Until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please, think.